The Greatnorth essence lights were never meant to be controlled. For tens of thousands of years, they had devoured demons, shredded cultivators, and erased arrogance from existence without mercy. Countless mighty beings had perished beneath their silver tide, leaving behind nothing but drifting dust and unfinished ambition. Yet at this very moment, a single black ring hummed softly in the air, and the lights obeyed. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. Having finally escaped the oppressive reach of the gold-weight spirit trees, the two demons leapt lightly from the tortoise's broad back. In the same breath, the great beast shimmered and dissolved, her massive shell folding into light as she resumed her human form. Yet the passage had exacted its price. Her face, once steady and resolute, was now drained of color, pale as frost beneath moonlight. Without a word, the three figures blurred into motion and sped toward the hall. Old Devil Qian's crimson incarnation remained a step ahead. From a distance, they watched as a dense torrent of silver threads swept through the air and tore the silhouette into tatters. And yet in the same instant, a blazing eruption of crimson radiance burst forth from its body, stitching the shredded form back together in defiance of annihilation. Thus, locked in a cycle of destruction and rebirth, the silhouette vanished beyond the curtain of Greatnorth essence lights. The sight chilled them, and none dared hesitate. In seamless coordination, the lion hawk surged forward, its form flickered, reappearing at the forefront as it threw wide its beak and released a silent golden sound wave. The air quivered. The tightly woven mass of silver threads shuddered, and a slender fissure split through them. At once the silver-winged night fiend unfurled his wings. An azure gale roared forth, sweeping into the fractured threads and scattering them like drifting frost. Sound and wind alternated in relentless rhythm. At last a breach opened. Without pause, the three figures darted through the narrow gap and slipped into the hall, their movements slowing as they began their cautious exploration. Outside, Lin Yinping's expression darkened. In so short a time, their once formidable party had been reduced to 5. She clenched her teeth, her brows knitting tightly as unease crept into her gaze. Turning toward Grand Immortal Shu, she began, "Brother Shu, we." The Grand Immortal did not look at her. His jade sword continued its steady arc, cleaving into the trunk of a towering tree. Calmly, he interrupted, "Saintess, there is no need for concern. Our true objective is that Han Fellow, not the treasures. With so many already entering contention, will not be easy. Let us first eradicate the remaining trees and guard the gate." Ge Tianhao laughed sharp and confident. "Aha! Brother Shu speaks wisely. Even should they seize the treasures, they must still depart through this very place. Though we cannot pass the Greatnorth essence lights, they will not pass us once they attempt to leave." Lin Yinping's gaze lingered on the deceptively delicate silver strands drifting in the air. Beautiful, yet lethally sharp. After a moment's thought, she nodded. The two black-robed elders found the plan reasonable as well, though regret flickered in their eyes at the thought of lost opportunity. They suppressed it and resumed hacking at the massive spirit trees. Moments later, a thunderous explosion echoed. A 30-meter-tall tree groaned, cracked, and collapsed to the earth. Hanli stood before Kunwu Hall and exhaled slowly, the breath carrying both tension and relief. When he glanced behind him, he saw it a dense web of silver threads sealing the path like a merciless net. Those ancient cultivators were indeed cunning, he muttered, to conceal an illusion formation within the Greatnorth essence lights. Had it not been for my bright sight spirit eyes, disentangling it would have been troublesome indeed. Turning forward once more, he found himself within the rear chamber of Kunwu Hall. The space was not vast, yet it bore solemn authority. 2 neat rows of wooden chairs, each of distinct craftsmanship, lined the chamber like seats within an official court. At the end of the rows stood a faintly golden chair, dignified in its simplicity. Beside it rose a 3-meter-tall table. The chair was carved from common gold-string spirit wood. The table, however, was hewn from a single slab of lustrous marble. its surface gleaming faintly as spiritual chi pulsed within it like a hidden heartbeat. A translucent green barrier enveloped the table, but through its veil he could just make out several objects resting atop it. These must be the treasures of Kunwu Hall. Han Li's brow lifted slightly. He swept his gaze across the chamber. It was utterly silent, empty, save for the quiet hum of spiritual energy. Only then did he raise his eyes upward. Behind the faint golden chair hung an unassuming painting, 3 men contemplating the moon. A Buddhist monk, a Taoist priest, and a Confucian scholar stood within a bamboo grove, their sleeves stirring as though in unseen wind. They appeared locked in fervent discussion, gazing up at the luminous full moon suspended above them. The painting was small, no more than a foot in height, and faded by the erosion of time. At first glance it seemed utterly ordinary, and yet now it held his gaze. He studied it carefully. Long moments passed before Han Li lowered his eyes, his thoughts turning inward. He detected no spiritual fluctuation, no hidden mechanism, neither by sight nor by divine sense. And yet, an inexplicable dissonance stirred within him. How could something so mundane hang within a place such as this? His expression shifted. Suddenly resolute, he flicked his sleeve. A streak of golden light, 3 meters long, slashed through the air and cleaved the painting apart. In a flash, the canvas split into fragments that fluttered to the floor like fallen leaves. Was it merely my imagination? Han Li wondered. But since he had acted, he would see the matter through. With a casual wave of his sleeve, several fist-sized fireballs flared into existence before him, their flames crackling as he prepared to reduce the remains to ash. "Master, be careful," Silvermoon cried sharply. Before his mind could fully register the warning, his body blurred, instinctively splitting into 8 identical copies. In that same heartbeat, the stone floor 3 meters behind him exploded. From within the shattered rubble, spiritual light burst forth. Blinding streaks of gold and silver lanced forward, striking at the copies from behind. A crisp clang resounded as one blow was deflected, revealing a gold and silver shuttle. Han Li staggered from the impact, tumbling through the air before stabilizing 20 meters away. When he turned back, fury and alarm blazed across his face. Had he not prepared the Silver Tail Star shield in advance, that strike might well have left him gravely wounded. Shock lingered in his normally composed features, though anger now burned fiercely in his chest. With a flick of his wrist, he recalled the gleaming silver shield. His other hand swept outward, summoning over 30 tiny golden swords, which shot forth and cleaved toward the mound of rubble. Then, a woman's laughter rang out, clear and mocking. In a surge of light, a massive gold and silver object emerged. Though countless sword lights descended upon it, each blade inexplicably fell powerless to the ground. Han Li's heart trembled. Much of his fury dissolved into wary caution. Before him stood a colossal textile shuttle 10 meters tall. Its surface gleamed like a polished golden mirror. It bore the same shape as the smaller shuttle that had struck him earlier, only magnified many times over. "Fellow Taoist is quite vigilant for my strike to fail," came a young woman's voice, amused and curious. The smaller shuttles reappeared, circling once before merging into the massive one. "Tashtich, might you enlighten me as to what techniques you cultivate?" Han Li recalled his flying swords, his thoughts racing. Spiritual light flared across his body as he shot toward the marble table in a streak of azure radiance. Since another adversary had appeared, his priority shifted. Instantly secure the treasures first, settle the rest later. The longer he was delayed, the more cultivators would breach the Greatnorth essence lights. His chances would diminish with every passing moment. Yet even as he moved, unease prickled at him. The woman's voice was unfamiliar. She was neither demon nor human from those he had encountered before. Could there be others who had entered Kunwu Mountain even faster than them? Suddenly the woman cried out in surprise. Han Li had already traversed over 60 meters and now hovered above the table. But in that very instant, the air above him twisted. An azure scarf materialized out of nothingness and descended upon him like a falling sky. Nearly 20 meters wide, it appeared without warning, smothering him before he could react. Even with his formidable cultivation, he was powerless to evade it. He was trapped. Azure light flooded his vision. Cursing inwardly, Han Li hastily summoned the silver tail star shield. A veil of white mist blossomed around him. Upon the surface of the vast scarf, a woman appeared, immortal form sect's Lady Mu. Having witnessed the devastating might of Han Li's tri-flame fan, she knew the scarf could not restrain him for long. Yet success had favored her, and she dared not waste a breath. In a streak of light, she shot toward the marble table. Raising her hand, she produced a silver command medallion. It flashed once, striking the green barrier that enveloped the table. Under the radiance of silver light, the seemingly impregnable barrier melted like snow beneath spring sun. At last the treasures were revealed in their true form. 4 crimson wooden tiles, a small purple sword, a palm-sized monk staff, a scroll pulsing with crimson radiance, and a dark green seal block engraved with a lifelike 5-clawed dragon. Lady Mu's eyes shone with delight. Her gaze settled upon the dragon seal. After the briefest pause, she swept her sleeve and gathered every treasure into her grasp. Just as Lady Mu extended her hand to claim the treasures, the ground beneath her suddenly blazed with a surge of emerald light. In the next instant, several verdant serpents burst from the earth, their bodies glistening like polished jade. They shot upward with lightning speed, coiling around her limbs and torso before she could react. With their prey fully bound, the serpents opened their maws and struck viciously with venomous fangs. Bung! Her sentient treasures reacted at once. A barrier of white spiritual light blossomed around her body, repelling the assault and forcing the serpents to reveal their true forms, twisting green vines thick as arms. Though their fangs failed to pierce her defense, the vines tightened mercilessly, binding her fast. Lady Mu's face mirrored the same furious alarm Han Li had shown moments before. She had not expected a second predator lurking in the shadows. Having ensnared Han Li and dispelled the barrier protecting the treasures, had she instead paved the way for another to reap the harvest? Who could have followed so closely behind her sun-moon shuttle and remained utterly undetected? Her ability to burrow beneath the hall had only been possible because of the silver medallion left behind by the 3 elders of Kunwu. It granted her temporary control over a portion of the hall's restrictions, allowing her to slip beneath the earth like a shadow. And yet someone else had followed. At that very moment, a strange crystalline laugh rang through the hall. The nearby ground rippled. From it, a tall green silhouette rose soundlessly, as though growing from the stone itself. A pair of icy emerald eyes fixed upon her, and her heart shuddered beneath their cold gaze. When she saw the figure clearly, she cried out in disbelief. A Treant Lord. How can such a monster exist in this world? Though its shape was vaguely human, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, its entire body was bark and knotted wood. Its skin resembled ancient tree trunks, and faint veins of sap pulsed beneath its surface. It was less a man than a walking sentient tree. At her cry, the Treant Lord merely sneered, dismissing her fear as irrelevant. Its form blurred into a streak of green light and shot toward the marble table. Its intent unmistakable, it would claim the treasures for itself. Lady Mu's heart sank. Even if she broke free now, she would be too late to stop it. But what happened next defied imagination. Before the Treant could approach the table, the torn fragments of the painting Han Li had destroyed suddenly began to glow. Flecks of yellow, white, and red shimmered across the scattered scraps. In a breath, they converged into a swirling tri-colored gale that crashed into the advancing green light. The Treant Lord was flung backward more than 30 meters, as though struck by divine judgment. The green sphere of light shattered and recoalesced at its original location, tumbling uncontrollably across the ground. After several violent rolls, the towering monster forced itself upright. When it looked toward the drifting mists of tri-colored light, unspeakable terror filled its wooden features. The 3 swirling mists circled the table once before, condensing into indistinct silhouettes no more than a foot tall. A Taoist, a Confucian scholar, a Buddhist monk. They were the very figures from the painting. Their gazes were calm, emotionless, and utterly merciless. The three Kunwu elders. The Treant Lord shrieked. Without another thought, its entire body erupted in green radiance. It turned and fled headlong toward the Greatnorth essence lights, not daring to glance back. The three miniature figures moved in perfect unison, each silently pointed, one toward the small purple sword, one toward the monk's staff, one toward the crimson scroll. The three treasures trembled and rose into the air, humming with awakened power. In an instant they vanished. In the next heartbeat, just as the Treant Lord was about to plunge into the Greatnorth essence lights, they reappeared, before it converging into a single devastating strike. There was no time to evade. Tri-colored brilliance exploded outward, followed by a thunderous detonation that shook the entire hall. Then, an overwhelming surge of green light flared like a newborn sun, swallowing everything in its radiance. When it finally faded, silence returned. The Treant Lord was gone. Only the three treasures remained floating serenely in the air. The combined strike had utterly vaporized the most powerful of the four demons in a single blow. At that same moment, one of the four crimson wooden tiles upon the table crumbled silently into ash. The sword, staff, and scroll circled once in the air before descending gently back to their original positions. As for the three miniature elders, they vanished as though they had never existed. They had been nothing more than threads of spiritual sense left behind by the Kunwu masters, the final safeguard ensuring that no demon or malevolent being could claim the hall's treasures. The Treant Lord, strongest among the four demons, had perished in an instant. Its fate was as abrupt as it was merciless. Lady Mu's heart soared at the sudden reversal. With the Treant's destruction, the vines binding her instantly lost their spiritual vitality. They withered and burned to nothing upon contact with her white ethereal flames. She inhaled deeply, steadying herself, when a muffled bang erupted behind her, followed by the crack of thunder. "Senior Marshal Sister, be careful!" the beautiful female cultivator cried out. Lady Mu's heart clenched. Without hesitation, she waved her sleeve, summoning the remaining treasures to rise and drift toward her. But at that precise moment, thunder roared overhead. A silhouette descended within it. Han Li, his hand extended, and the treasures halted mid-air, reversing direction to fly toward him instead. Having already witnessed his escape from her azure scarf and his mastery of lightning movement, Lady Mu's fury ignited. With a sharp cry, she spat out several glacial needles. They tore through the air like frozen meteors aimed straight for Han Li's heart. Simultaneously, she swept her sleeve, attempting to envelop the treasures once more within a red mist. Han Li's expression darkened. He spat forth the snow crystal pearl, which expanded in a burst of icy brilliance to intercept the incoming needles. With one hand, he formed a massive azure hand of light that reached for the treasures. With the other, he summoned the Triflame fan. A dangerous glint flashed in his eyes. Without hesitation, he swung the fan at Lady Mu. Though he had intended to deal first with the woman hidden within the shuttle, resentment burned fiercely within him. Lady Mu had dared to entrap him, and now, at this most crucial juncture, stood between him and the treasures. The snow crystal pearl deflected the silver needles. The azure hand seized her red mist. Then the Triflame fan trembled. A tri-colored inferno erupted forward, roaring like a heavenly calamity. Lady Mu had witnessed its power before. She knew she could not withstand it. Forced back, she retreated at full speed. The strike missed, but its power did not diminish. It detonated mid-air, unleashing a halo of tri-colored radiance and crushing spiritual pressure that filled the hall. Even Han Li himself staggered several steps backward. Caught at the very edge of the blast, the azure hand and the red mist were annihilated instantly. The treasures spilled free. Han Li felt a surge of elation, but at that exact moment, three figures burst forth from the Greatnorth essence lights at the front of the hall. A crimson silhouette, a silver streak, a ball of swirling purple mist. Each vanished the instant they appeared, their concealment techniques flawless. Han Li cursed inwardly. Thunder rolled again as he shot toward the falling treasures. He arrived first. The other three appeared almost simultaneously around him and attacked without hesitation. With no time to contend with them all, Han Li swept up the two nearest items within an azure mist, a crimson wooden tile and the sparkling red scroll. He reached for the monk's staff, but more than 10 beams of crimson light slashed down from above, accompanied by a series of golden sound waves. Left with no alternative, Han Li retreated, evading for the moment. The crimson silhouette seized the monk's staff. The silver streak and purple mist ignored everything else, lunging instead for the remaining 2 wooden tiles, fearful that even a heartbeat's delay would cost them dearly. Han Li paused, startled. Then, the crimson silhouette extended its hand toward the dark green seal. "Stop! The dragon call crest isn't yours!" A woman's urgent voice rang out. A white jade ruler descended from above, smashing downward without mercy. Before it even struck, it began to chant. The sound resembled distant Buddhist scriptures recited in unison. Countless white lotuses bloomed in the air, each the size of a bowl, each radiating 7-colored Buddhist light. They filled the chamber, enveloping not only the crimson silhouette, but the silver streak and purple mist as well. By sheer fortune, Han Li's earlier retreat had placed him just beyond the ruler's range. Dumbfounded, he watched as the woman shouted again. The lotuses ruptured simultaneously, merging together into the petals of an enormous lotus bloom. From every petal flowed golden Buddhist script. The chanting swelled, echoing like an army reciting sacred sutras in unison. Within the massive lotus, the 3 figures staggered, unable to seize the treasures. Their forms swayed unsteadily, as though intoxicated by divine scripture. Just as that overwhelming spectacle unfolded before him, Han Li felt a sudden tremor from within his own body. The Vajra barrier hidden in his dantian began to pulse, expanding and contracting, as though stirred by an unseen force. Alarm flickered across his mind. Without hesitation, he channeled his magic power inward, forcefully suppressing the barrier until it gradually calmed. Only then did he lift his gaze once more toward the colossal lotus blooming in the distance. A deep look passed through his eyes. Then, with a sharp beat of his wings, he vanished. In the next instant, he reappeared at the very edge of the Greatnorth essence lights and shot inside as a streak of azure lightning. In his judgment, retreat was the wisest course. The white jade ruler's might was no less formidable than the tri-flame fan, though its strength lay in illusion and confinement rather than annihilation. It was almost certainly a replica of a divine spirit treasure. Having already secured 2 treasures, what reason did he have to stake his life further? Though resentment simmered within him toward the ruler's master for ambushing him earlier, this was not the hour for settling grievances. Old Devil Chen and the Night Fiend were no trivial foes. However confident he was in his abilities, facing them all at once would place his life in genuine peril. Within the massive gold and silver shuttle, the beautiful woman clasped her hands in an incantation gesture, her expression taut with strain as she controlled the white jade ruler. She noticed Han Li's withdrawal, but spared him no further thought. After all, he had not taken the vital dragon call crest. Lady Mu saw her junior martial sister successfully trap Old Devil Chen and the 2 demons within the enormous rainbow. Lotus, casting a venomous glance toward the direction Han Li had fled, she stepped into the illusion. Under her junior's careful control, she was unaffected by the Lotus's power. Moving swiftly, she seized the dragon call crest without obstruction. Yet when her fingers reached for the small purple sword beside it, a flash of Buddhist light erupted. A section of the lotus above her abruptly began to collapse. Old Devil Chen and the 2 demons broke free from their confinement. Their figures reappeared and they fixed Lady Mu with dark, ominous gazes. Her junior martial sister's magic power had been exhausted. The 4 Skies ruler lost its effect. The woman's face drained of color. Not long after Han Li re-entered the Greatnorth essence lights, he encountered the horned woman, the vast cliff tortoise in human form. She wore a peculiar suit of green armor, its surface shimmering faintly as it repelled the encroaching silver threads. Yet despite this protection, she advanced at a slow, deliberate pace, as though incapable of employing any movement techniques within the lights. It was no wonder the other two had abandoned her and reached the hall first. When Han Li appeared before her, she paused in surprise. Her gaze sharpened, and with visible caution, she raised a pitch-black rod before her, observing him warily. Han Li's expression remained calm. Without a word, he veered aside and walked past her. To his knowledge, there was no grudge between them, and in such a perilous region, mutual restraint would have been the rational choice. But he had misjudged her. The instant he swept by, her expression changed violently. She turned stiffly, staring at him with naked terror. The sight startled him. He halted instinctively and looked back, confusion flickering in his eyes. "Hand over the items you took from the hall," she shrieked. In the same breath, she pointed the black rod at him. It elongated instantly, stretching over 10 meters. Then it blurred, multiplying into countless identical rods that stacked together, forming a small mountain directly above him. The sudden shadow looming overhead made Han Li's heart tremble. Her madness and her words left him baffled, yet not a trace of fear surfaced on his face. He merely raised a hand and released a black ring toward the descending mass. When the woman saw this, delight flashed across her features. The rod she wielded had been painstakingly refined from materials within this very place during her long imprisonment. After tens of thousands of years of continuous tempering, it had become a grand treasure. Though the rods appeared plain, each weighed nearly a ton. She was utterly confident they would crush Han Li into paste. Killing intent surged through her mind. She poured immense spiritual power into the rods, causing them to swell further in size and density. Han Li could easily discern her intention. Though he did not understand why she sought his life, her hostility erased any thought of restraint. Expressionless, he pointed toward the rods. The black ring hummed as it touched the mass. At once the surrounding silver threads vibrated in chorus. They trembled, then surged forward, weaving densely around the rods at astonishing speed. In the blink of an eye, the entire mountain vanished from sight, swallowed by the Greatnorth essence lights. "You can control the Greatnorth essence lights." The horned woman shrieked disbelief, twisting her voice. The heaven-earth rings were a paired set yin to resist the essence lights, yang to command them. Han Li snorted coldly. Outside these lights, he would indeed fear a late nascent soul demon. Killing her would be no easy task. But here, the battlefield belonged to him. Since she had chosen to court death, he would not disappoint her. Whatever creature she truly was, her body and soul would surely be rare materials of the highest grade. With that thought, he abandoned all restraint. A spell seal struck the yang ring. It spun through the air, releasing a low hum. A mysterious dark radiance spread outward, seizing control of the silver threads within a 100-meter radius. With a mere thought, Han Li commanded them. The threads aligned instantly, forming a massive silver tide that surged toward the horned woman like a devouring ocean. She screamed and dared not continue fighting him head-on. In desperation, she spat out a ball of black-red blood essence and formed incantation seals. The essence exploded into a mist that wrapped around her armor, turning it blood-red. The silver tide crashed down upon her. She was engulfed like driftwood beneath a storm surge. Green and crimson light flared violently. Deafening metallic clangs rang out. Though her secret technique empowered the armor, it had barely resisted the essence lights to begin with. Now assaulted by overwhelming force holes, riddled its surface within moments. Her scream twisted with agony. Pressing her hands against the armor, she summoned layers of grey light that condensed into stone-like material, forming an additional defensive shell and slowing the relentless erosion. Yet the stone crumbled just as swiftly beneath the silver assault. She was forced to expend her true essence continuously to replenish it. At a glance, her defeat was only a matter of time. But Han Li was resolved. He struck the yang ring again with multiple spell seals. It spun once more and drew in distant essence light. gathering it into an even greater silver wave that surged forward with overwhelming momentum. Her face paled ashen grey. There was no time to evade. The second wave struck. Her armor shattered completely. Only a final layer remained before total collapse. Her eyes darted wildly. Terror consumed her. "Stop, fellow Taoist. Spare my life," she screamed. "I am willing to recognize you as my master to become your spirit beast." A portion of her armor gave way. Silver threads penetrated and crushed her arm into pulp. After surviving countless millennia, how could she accept death here? "Become my spirit beast." Hanli's expression shifted slightly. He paused the assault for the moment. Looking down at her struggling beneath the silver tide, he said calmly, "Do you take me for a child? Soul-restraining techniques are useless against demons of your caliber. How could you possibly serve as my spirit beast?" If her answer faltered for even a breath, he would finish her without hesitation. Seeing that his killing intent remained undiminished, she cried out in fear. "There is no need for lengthy explanation. You took a wooden tile from Kunwu Hall, my soul-binding tile. Until I complete the great Tao, I am bound by it."